All right, this is an update on on my fight against the trumped-up charges laid against me by T.C. Rice as methods of trying to silence me about the local, state, and federal crimes committed by the Maysville police and by the local government in general. None of those crimes include clumsiness when holding a phone, but anyway, I'm telling this update because it's trick you could possibly use yourself if you encounter the same difficulty I have. I'm going to be using, I have multiple defenses I'm going to be using. One of those will be the affirmative defense of entrapment, because basically the government has forced me to do whatever I can to fight their criminal behavior and their endless harassment of me and their endless attacks, sabotage of every single aspect of my life. They have forced me into the actions I've taken. And I'm going to show that by showing who I've spoken to. I've spoken to the FBI in 3 different states about the Maysville police, because that's who is supposed to deal with civil rights violations, but actually doesn't. I've contacted the DOJ Civil Rights Division and the Public Corruption Division as well. I've contacted, of course, I've already mentioned on this, on the YouTube channel, on the Facebook page, both about the U.S. District Court, how they're playing the review period that is pretty much indefinite and never ends ever, so that I'm essentially being denied my right of access to the courts. Little note on that one. There is a Supreme Court decision that says that a policy that affects different races differently in the outcome of it, affects different races in different ways, is, I forget if it's unconstitutional or violates or civil rights violation. I forget which one specifically, but essentially says that you can't really have that policy, that you can fight that policy. Now, the problem I'm having is because I'm filing informal papyrus. The reason I have to file informal papyrus is because all my efforts to find work have been sabotaged. I have zero doubt that they're the ones who went to suspend temporary labor, told them not to pay me and to never let me come back, even though when they told me not to ever come back was after I reported them for not paying me. So it might be a whistleblower law issue there as well. Then I'll continue looking into ways to sue them later on. And just remember, Cincinnati temporary labor, they're rats. They do sell drugs to you, but then they might turn around and rat on you. So they do both. They're playing both sides. But the other thing is filing a form of papyrus. There's so many restrictions on that do not apply if you pay the filing fee. Now, the filing fee is outrageous. It's $400 to file a lawsuit in federal court. So the vast majority of people who are going to be victims of police misconduct in the first place are going to be filing in form of papyrus, simply because they do target the poor almost exclusively. That's what police do, because they want the people who aren't going to have a good lawyer around, that they can just attack however they want and attack their character however they want and slander them however they want. That's what they do. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, given the racial disparity in wealth and income in this country, largely caused by attacking the poor and by the racism that has caused greater inherited poverty among non-whites than among whites, that makes that essentially a racist policy. So that Supreme Court decision I mentioned could be useful to someone watching this. Hopefully it will be. So bear that in mind. Additionally, like I said, I'm going to continue. I'm going to bring up all the other efforts I've made to have something done. I've contacted state police here in Kentucky. I don't think I contacted state police. I contacted the Attorney General's Office of California about the things they did out there. I didn't contact California State Police, though. I didn't do that. And I'm trying to remember. Ohio, I might have contacted. No, I didn't contact the state police out there about public corruption. I did contact the state police here about it. Public corruption, also Post 8 down Moorhead, which is our local post. Also contacted the AG's office, Kentucky AG's office, Public Corruption Division. Contacted them. Of course, I've sent complaints to Ron Rice about 1,000 times, and that's the thing about cops. They never consider each other to be guilty because they're all equally pieces of garbage. I don't want YouTube to censor the video and restrict its access, which is why I'm using the term garbage when others would be far more appropriate. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And I would advise you to try to do the same thing. Basically, turn on the cops, report them to every single law enforcement entity you can think of and every single civil rights entity you can think of that exists in the government. And if they force you to doing something that is against the law, then you could use an entrapment defense because it's valid. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to entrap you. That is the whole point. They want to get you to break the law so that they can threaten you with trumped up charge beyond anything they'd actually be able to win at. And then, beyond anything they'd be able to win at if it weren't for perjury and evidence tampering that they do so often. And then they can pretty much continue using you as a slave and continue exploiting you. That's what they try to do. But I'm going to turn that on them. I've already exhausted every option I can think of, and I'm a pretty creative guy. I've gone through ones that most people wouldn't think of, trying to find a way to get something done about the corruption here, and I've been forced to because, like I said, I've been given no choice in the matter. This endless harassment, this endless assault upon everything, every aspect of my life. I'm sure that's going on to other people. Hopefully it hasn't been a decade long like it has been in my case, but it has been. Now something else. This is sort of a personal thing. Some of you may wonder. You've probably been told not to really trust me or listen to me, probably. Two things. First one is, yes, I have been talking to law enforcement, but I've been talking to them about other law enforcement. I don't consider that ratting, because basically it's doing what they do to other people. I'm not turning on people who haven't worked for them about anything other than working for them, unless they've except when I've been pushed to. And yeah, I've turned in some of the rats sometimes, hoping that the rats were picked up on something else they get picked up on. They start talking about this too. Of course, that's not going to happen because these guys are all in bed together. FBI's in bed with the state police and the local police, and yet they're supposed to be the ones investigating civil rights violations, when in reality they're allowing them to happen or encouraging them, because they don't actually do any investigation of their own. They don't do anything. They sit around, wait for a state case to happen, and then figure out what federal charge can go on top of it and pat themselves on the back for how wonderful they were for carrying out that bust. That's pretty much all they do and all they're good for. That's about it. Now, so, I mean, if you don't work for them, I don't give a crap what you're doing. And frankly, it's none of my business. I'm libertarian. I don't give a damn what you do. You do what you please. If it doesn't hurt anybody else, it doesn't matter. What these guys are doing is hurting other people. They're targeting people, innocent people, framing them for crimes just so they can be used as slave labor. And, frankly, I have a degree in a $70,000 a year field, okay? They would make more money off of the taxes I'd be paying than what they were ever getting out of the slave labor, especially with how much I fought back against them. And them sabotaging my efforts to find work basically means that I'm forced to rely on public assistance that I don't want to rely on, but they've decided they're going to make me do that. So they're costing themselves money with me. And I know one thing, I'm not unique in that. There are lots of people whose talents are not being used because these guys would rather have someone to exploit and someone to have power over than have actual gain. They're so obsessive and delusional about that, that's how they are. That's why there's no point trying to reason with them. They have no capacity for reason. They're just delusional psychopaths on a rampage. And that's why we have to fight them, and we have to do whatever we can to take them on. But that's about it for now. please excuse my clumsiness with the phone and the state of my hair. I've been day napping today, and my hair is a little too thick to deal with unless I wet it down. Plus, it's at that length where it's kind of gets wild. But try to overlook that, and do remember what I said about the entrapment defense and the racist nature of the rules about informal pauperous lawsuits that simply do not apply equally across races, and they don't apply to the wealthy, which is what makes them not apply across races. Government is of the rich, by the rich, for the rich. That's the way our government is. Don't ever forget that. That's why we need to put a word out and try to get reporters who are on our side. And well, basically start enough people watching this on Facebook and YouTube to where it forces reporters to look at it, forces an investigation by reporters, the only legitimate investigation. So make sure you use those tools, and I'll talk to you again.